Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Look, if you're working with Dynamics 365 Business Central, keeping all your systems connected is obviously a top priority. But recently, I noticed a major shift that essentially forces us to completely rethink how API connections are handled. So today we're going to look at this pressing need to migrate away from the old authentication methods, and we'll walk step by step through exactly how to configure OAuth in both the Azure portal and Postman. We're going to break down the absolutely critical authentication settings and even see how to troubleshoot some of the most common roadblocks.
If you've been poking around the user card page in Business Central lately, you've probably seen a glaring notification that reads exactly like this. The Web Service Access Key, which relied on basic authentication, was officially removed with the Business Central 2022 release Wave 1, or BC20. Basically, the old master key is officially gone. Okay, let's dive into this. To really grasp what's happening here and how we fix it, I found it incredibly helpful to picture this whole setup as an exclusive VIP club. We're upgrading our security system, and we need a whole new way to let our trusted guests in the door. So here's our roadmap for today. 1. The shift to OAuth. 2. Configuring the Azure portal. 3. Business Central setup steps. 4. Our Postman connection guide. And 5. Resolving common errors.
Section 1. The shift to OAuth, leaving the master key behind.
All right, to make this setup sequence super easy to remember, let's establish our analogy right off the bat. Think of Azure as the club's management office, Business Central is the exclusive club itself, and Postman is our guest. This brilliantly illustrates exactly why Microsoft forced this change in the first place. With Basic Auth, you basically had a master key. If someone got their hands on it, boom, they had permanent access to the club until you explicitly went in and changed the locks. Super convenient, sure, but incredibly risky. Now, switch over to OAuth. Think of OAuth as a temporary VIP wristband. It proves you're authorized to be there, but it expires. It's vastly superior for network security because it ensures that even if a guest's wristband gets intercepted, it's going to quickly become completely useless.
Section 2. Configuring the Azure portal. Setting the VIP rules.
We are starting right in Azure, our management office, because this is where we tell the overarching security system exactly who gets a VIP pass and what they're allowed to access once they get it. Here's the exact sequence of clicks you need to make. First, jump into the Azure portal, search for App Registrations, and choose New Registration. Give it a name, register it, done. Second, under Authentication, you'll choose Add a Platform, select Web, and enter your redirect URI, like a local address, say, localhost 8080/login, and hit Configure. Third, head over to API Permissions and click Add a Permission. You're going to want to find Dynamics 365 Business Central and select both the delegated permissions and application permissions you specifically need for your setup. And finally, this is huge, do not forget to click Grant Admin Consent and confirm with Yes. Now, while we're still in Azure, we need to generate something incredibly important. If you go to Certificates and Secrets, you can create a new client secret. Just give it a quick description and set an expiration date. This client secret, it's a crucial string of text that acts as your application's unique secret handshake. It's what proves to the management office that you are exactly who you say you are when you ask for that VIP wristband. So here is the absolute crucial point. Before you leave the Azure portal, you literally must meticulously copy down 3 vital pieces of information. You need your application or client ID, you need your directory or tenant ID, and you need the exact value of the certificates and secret you just created. Put these somewhere safe, seriously, because we absolutely need them for the next phases.
Section 3. Business Central setup steps. Informing the bouncer.
Okay, we've set the rules in the office, but now we need to physically go down to the club, Business Central, and tell the internal bouncer about the new app we just registered. If we skip this, the system just won't recognize incoming API requests, even if they have the perfect credentials. So, log into your Business Central environment. Up in the search bar, the Tell Me feature, just type in AAD. Quick insider note here. Azure Active Directory Applications has actually been renamed to Microsoft Entra Applications, but searching AAD will still pop it right up. Choose New. Here, you'll paste in that application client ID we copied from Azure a second ago and give it a description. Finally, assign the specific permissions to this application exactly like you would on a standard user card. Oh, and make sure the state is set to Enabled. Now, what's really interesting about this setup is a very strict limitation. When you are assigning those permissions in Business Central, you literally cannot assign the super permission set to an application.
The system just flat out won't allow it. You must use less encompassing permission sets that are specifically designed for the exact purpose of the application. Honestly, it's a brilliant forced security measure to ensure apps only have access to what they truly actually need.
Section 4, Postman Connection Guide, Getting the Wristband. We've reached the climax of our setup. Postman, our guest, is waiting outside the club and needs to securely request that temporary VIP wristband, the access token, so we can finally pull the Business Central API data. To do this, we have to carefully map the required Postman inputs to the exact values we generated back in our Azure Management Office. You're going to construct the access token URL using your specific tenant ID. Then drop your application client ID right into the client ID field. Next, paste that unique handshake, the certificates and secrets value, into the client secret field. And finally, you'll set the scope to the default Business Central API address. Let's actually walk through those final clicks in Postman. Open your test API URL. Under the Authorization tab, select OAuth 2.0. For Add Authorization Data to, select Request Headers. Next, choose Client Credentials for the grant type. Now enter all those carefully mapped values we just talked about, and be sure to set Client Authentication to Send Client Credentials in body. Once all that is filled out, click Get New Access Token. Select Use Token and then hit Send. If everything is configured correctly, boom, you will successfully connect and see your Business Central data populate right there. Section 5, Resolving Common Errors. Handling the bouncer's rejection.
But hey, what happens if things just don't go perfectly on the first try and the system rejects your VIP pass? Let's look at exactly what to do, focusing on 3 very specific error codes. First, if you get the internal_data_not_found filter error, the issue is usually inside the club itself. You either have insufficient permissions or an incorrectly set company name. So go back to the Microsoft Entra application card inside Business Central and double-check your user groups and permission sets. Now, if Postman says authentication failed when getting new access token, your secret handshake is wrong. Go verify your certificates and secret setting in Azure App Registrations and ensure it perfectly matches the client secret in Postman. Lastly, if you see authentication_invalid credentials, you need to go check the API permissions back in Azure App Registrations to make sure you actually properly granted access.
And just like that, we're at the end of our setup journey. Those old basic keys, they are officially gone. But by successfully shifting over to OAuth, your Business Central APIs are significantly more secure than they ever were before. We now have a really solid, structured understanding of the Azure portal, the internal Business Central settings, and exactly how to tie it all together in Postman. So, with this step-by-step roadmap laid out in front of you, are you ready to configure your VIP access? Tackling this migration is totally doable. Thanks so much for exploring this with me.